Penguin Random House Canada presents Only Sisters by Lilian Nattel. Read for you by Mcgregor. For Donna Reindress, BFF, who has the gift of always looking truth in the eye, and in memory of Francis Greenbaum. Chapter 1. I agreed to become my sister during a polar vortex. It was her 59th birthday, and we were 10,000 kilometers apart. I was sitting on my bed, and though the city was encased in ice, I had the window open. With the superpower of a menopausal woman, I could melt mountains of snow. The computer was on my lap, a frigid breeze tapping my hot cheeks while my sister kept breaking up on the screen. It was midnight in my time zone, an hour before dawn in hers. She was a nurse working in rural West Africa, where the seasons were wet or dry, but never cold. Her nose was sunburned and peeling. There was a vase of spiky crimson flowers nearby. A fan word, stirring her hair. My sister was named after the movie star Vivien Lee, whose beauty and grace our mother adored. I was named Joan, after no one in particular, and as a child that worried me. I also worried about pollution, nuclear war, being too ugly to be loved, everyone in my family dying, the callus on my finger. I thought it was a symptom of yaws, a rare tropical disease. Getting a B in math, going blind, and how to use tampons. I still worry about going blind. Also climate change, flying, and whether I'm ugly. I wore thick glasses when I was young. Except for that, my sister and I looked very much alike, though she grew up to be a beautiful woman. Even our parents couldn't tell our voices apart on the phone. In temperament, we were as different as water and wine. While I stayed home, my sister traveled the world. She was nonchalant about sharing her bed, picking up and dropping men at whim. I'd had one serious relationship. She delivered babies, bringing life into the world. My patients were dying. She needed to be free, but I needed to be good. She'd messaged me earlier in the day while I was on my way to see a patient. I was late because the cold had killed my car battery and I'd had to wait for a boost. Hurrying along the 12th floor corridor of a waterfront condo, I heard my phone whistle. On the lock screen, Vivien Connor, Skype call tonight at 10 your time? It was always Skype. I didn't use social media or messaging apps other than what came with my phone. I wrote back, sure, as if we talked all the time, and stuck the phone back in my jacket pocket. That winter I had a new jacket, waterproof with a removable lining. There was another coat I'd tried on, a black wool that made me feel as chic as a Parisian who only had to lift her chin to stop a taxi, but I visit patients in all weather, and so I'd put it back on the rack. As a physician, I could afford both coats, and I'm not stingy, but it seemed unkind to buy two coats when so many people struggled to pay for one. Doing the right thing was a compulsion. My colleagues called me Saint Joan, and they didn't mean it as a compliment. I'm a physician in palliative care. On the surface, it's like any other form of medicine. Once the cause of a person's symptoms is determined, treatment is prescribed based on experience and instinct as well as medical training. But there the similarity ends. We don't cure. We heal by easing pain and disability, improving quality of life. Palliative treatment doesn't change the course of a life-limiting illness. It has an unavoidable destination, the same as every person's life. Most physicians can't bear the helplessness of that. Palliative care doctors must bear it, and we are expected to do so with professional dispassion. This means hiding my own grief, even though I hold every loss in my heart like a secret child. I saw Vivien's message just before my first appointment with Eddie Wong. The nurse assigned to his care had warned me that his Yorkshire Terrier would jump all over me until it was petted. So as soon as I introduced myself, I bent down to give the dog a vigorous rub along its back and a scratch between the ears. That didn't get me even a small smile from the old man. I would have to work harder for that. Eddie's apartment, which I subsequently visited many times, had a similar layout to the one I'd sold before moving back home to take care of my mother. Open-plan kitchen and living dining room, a hallway leading to bedroom, bathroom, and den. On the wall were several paintings of the lake view as well as other landscapes. Cottage country, the Toronto skyline. A line of portraits hung on the wall next to the dining table, as if they were guests waiting for an invitation to be seated. The living room furniture was sturdy and old. Across from the couch there was a vintage stereo, a 1960s conceit, Large speakers and a turntable built into a wooden cabinet, concealed by sliding doors. "It still works," Eddie said when he saw me looking. While he lay down on the couch, I pulled a chair close and hung my jacket on the back of it, then sat. The jacket was navy, like my messenger bag and my pants, my shirt light grey. The bag was spacious. It held a laptop, stethoscope, and blood pressure cuff, as well as personal essentials. I unzipped it and extracted my laptop so I could take notes while we talked. I have an unobtrusive laptop, small screen, quiet keyboard. And I found that as long as I touch type while keeping my gaze mostly on my patient, it doesn't interfere with the flow of conversation. I like to ease the way with a bit of weather talk or a compliment about something in a new patient's home. Through the window, I could see a fog of steam, like God's breath hovering over the icy surface of Lake Ontario. "Do you think the lake will freeze?" I asked. "It did the year my oldest brother was born," Eddie said. Afterwards, I Googled, "Has Lake Ontario ever frozen?" And he was right. I put that in my patient notes. I'm known for the thoroughness of my notes. In our practice, we record vitals and medications, but also moods, hopes, resentments, relatives' attitudes, and a description of the home environment. These inform us of what's possible and desirable for our patients, so that we can do everything medically feasible to make the rest of their lives worth living and their deaths peaceful. It's what's best about my job, seeing patients light up when they realize that their existence has purpose, their essence still a viable proposition. But Eddie didn't believe in beating around the bush. "My niece was skeptical when I told her that you were coming to see me at home," he said. His niece, a dental assistant, had planned to be here, but like me, she'd had car trouble and was running late. "Doctors don't make house calls anymore, except when their patient is dying. That tells you something about our world, Dr. Connor." He laughed. He had breath for laughter because the metastases in his lungs were just scattered cells. He wasn't wearing his dentures, and when he laughed, his face crinkled around his mouth. There was a wedding photograph on an end table. A young Eddie, shorter than his bride, but barrel-chested. "Do you think you're dying?" "I've got stage 4 cancer." His voice was still deep. "And you may have it for a while yet." "No offense, Dr. Connor, but you can cut the crap." "Call me Joan." From his file, I knew that Eddie was a widower with no children and lived on his own. He had issues with nausea, but he was dealing with the colostomy bag. His blood pressure was higher than I'd have liked, probably due to pain that required better management. I was observing him, skin, nails, lips, not only for signs of illness, but also temperament. He wore loose trousers that pulled above his shins, revealing shiny skin, an indication of edema. His abdomen was slightly distended. Later, when I examined him, I'd palpate his belly to get a sense of how much of that was fat, fluid, or tumor. Ridges on his fingernails, still pink. A clean odor. He'd obviously bathed before I arrived, but he hadn't put in his teeth. I thought it was a statement. I asked, "What's your understanding of your disease?" The answer would tell me how much his oncologist had been able to communicate and how much reality my new patient was able to tolerate. "The cancer's in my gut, lymph nodes, liver, and lungs. I'm going to die from the liver before the lungs get too bad, so I'll be able to keep breathing?" "I think so." "I don't want to die on a ventilator." "I'll make sure everyone knows that. We've got a DNR, but your nurse will bring you a DNI form to sign so it's in your record, and she'll go over everything that can be done to make you comfortable. I have to say, Eddie, it isn't often that patients talk with me about their end-of-life preferences at our first visit." "When you're dying, you shouldn't wait until it's too late." "You're sick, but active dying is a process. There's nothing I see to indicate that it's begun." "A process? Like turning garbage meat into sausage?" His tone was resentful, defiant, adolescent. My elderly patients often say they feel the same inside, that it shocks them to see wrinkles and liver spots in the mirror. "Not garbage meat. You can't shock me, Eddie. I used to work as an emergency room physician. The ER isn't a nice place." He pushed himself up to a semi-sitting position. He had the usual turkey neck of the old, a solid chin and a wide nose, cheeks thin but not gaunt, wisps of white hair above his ears, deep-set eyes and glasses of an older style, square with black frames. "What made you go into this business instead?" "I weighed how much to share. Sometimes heroic efforts cause people needless suffering, and I hated that." My tone was more intense than I intended, and I softened it. Palliative care is a different kind of medicine. We have an hour or even longer for this appointment. There's no rush. What we're doing here is about the patient, not the meat. The little dog jumped up on the sofa and laid.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?